Hello, everyone, and welcome to SocioTech podcast hosted under Center for Machine Learning and Big Data Analysis, LNMIIT Jaipur. I'm Kushal Goel, and today we are welcoming back Arjun sir on another podcast for data privacy. So, welcome back, Arjun sir.
Thank you so much, Kushal.
So, sir, last time we talked about, in the last episode about data privacy, we talked about what is data, why is it need to be protected, is data protection really necessary? But one question that was not, I think, was touched upon was how are we protecting data? Are there any measures or are there any laws that are in place for protection of data, and especially in context of the India? So could you please share?
Yes, so see, there is actually a chronology about this. So, this regime for data protection and cybersecurity, and all this started in the year 2000 when we brought the IT Act as it became in the year 2000. Its main aim was to digitalize things. That is, if you upload documents for any kind of government department, so you could do it online. Okay, you could make transactions online, and this thing when in the context that we are talking about, so cyber crimes and violations of the laws and certain other procedures, it became something to be noted in the case of the IT Act 2000, right? But then it actually allowed senior police officials to actually move into public places and gather information for administrative purposes, right? So, which is not quite a lot privacy. But yes, it still started with the cybersecurity thing. That is, how to stop cyber crimes was one of the major agendas, and this is something that the IT Act 2000 went in. Then we came with certain other measures in 2008 when amendments were made, and IT Act 2008 came into being, when we also introduced some strict measures to protect the society from several kind of cyber crimes and cyber violations, be it child pornography or uploading obscene scenes on the internet, and theft, phishing was one of those. So cyber crimes was something that were taken under hooves by the government, by the laws, right? But then this is not something which readily protected the privacy for the individuals. For this, the first bill as a landmark comes in the year 2018 when we get the PDP bill. The PDP bill is Personal Data Protection Bill 2018, right? But then again, it was not passed. There were certain drawbacks that the parliament pointed to. These were about data localization, because there was no provision to localize data, because it requires certain...
Localize means India, in India.
Yes, so there is certain data needs to be kept only in the Indian servers, or if not, like today it's the thing that certain data needs to be kept only in the Indian servers. But at that time, the talk was about that there should be at least one copy of data that should be kept in the Indian servers. Then there was another issue which was raised. It was about the access to this data by the central government, okay, and the state, because in the name of any kind of national interest, in the name of security, integrity of India, all this data could have been under the government control and surveillance of the government, which is actually a threat to the public personal data.
I assume.
Yes, the public's personal data is what I meant. Then the third thing that came into being was who will take a note if there is a breach in the policies, if there is a non-compliance, because if there's any agency which is being set up for this, it was directly under the control of the central government, right? And then these all things did not let this bill pass, and it was then went back for further changes. It came back in 2019. It was sent to the Joint Parliamentary Committee. They again made some suggestions in it.
Amendments,
Yes, they suggested some.
Okay.
They recommended what all changes need to be done, and then finally in 2022, we have got the bill, which is probably about to be tabled in the upcoming sessions of the Parliament. So now, if this 2022 bill gets passed, then probably we will have something more on the plate to depict as the data privacy laws in India. Yes.
So like, okay, I get that a lot of the laws are being in place, and it was quite insightful. But I am like the point you mentioned that there were certain laws and amendments that were made to the Privacy Bill 2018, right? So could you please elaborate a bit more about what were those policies or what were those amendments were made? And I'm also curious about were those kind of influenced by the other data privacy frameworks, maybe of Europe or America or Australia? Could you please explain about that?
So, see, Kushal, the thing is that many things that India adapts to are more or less practiced in some other part of the world, and we put that framework, we scrutinize it to our context, and then we implement it here. A similar thing has been done for the data protection and privacy laws as well. So there are a few things that we have adopted from the foreign frameworks. One of these is the data subject rights, right? So what data subject rights are, they are about access, and they are also about rectification of data which is uploaded over the net. So you need to give your citizens the right to get to access the data that they have already uploaded. So this is what is included in the GDPR, in the European Union's data protection framework. And this same privacy framework has also been implemented, is about to be implemented in India as well. Then the importance of consent is something that we have adopted from the European Union's framework. Consent, as we all know, like while we generally checklist the box which is given for providing our consent, but then this is taken from the European idea of privacy, that if I agree for my data to be given to them or to be stored by the data fiduciaries, only then should the data be collected. So this is something that is from there again. Then talking about data localization, as I said, it was a problem in the 2018's bill. This is something which we took from Chinese and Russian privacy frameworks, wherein certain sort of data needs to be localized within India only. Okay.
What is that certain sort of? Is it a particular category of data?
Yes, I mean, I also talked about this in the last podcast that we had, and we talked about critical data and sensitive data.
Yes.
So a bifurcation in these two makes it easier for the manager of the data to actually put in place that which kind of data should be necessarily localized. For example, say your biometric information, informations that pertain to your financial aspects. All these needs to be localized just in the Indian servers, just on the Indian servers. This is what data localization is. Then there is cross-border data transfer. This thing needs to be done with certain amount of compliance with certain regulations, because like we all must agree that there is a need to process data. There's an everyday need to process data, and not every data can be processed on Indian servers or for some other servers in case of some other nations and some other lands. Now, if this data needs to be transferred across the border, across the international border of that country, then there should be some regulatory checks that should be made, and if all these criteria are fulfilled, only then can the data be transferred.
So should it be like for example, let's India is sending its data to an X country, and it's essential for that personal sensitive information to be sent for that country. So is it like the job of the country to provide certain security measures so that data is protected?
Yes, so it's not just about the country itself, it is also about the organization to provide protection. And now this comes to a much important point, that is, who will penalize the organization or the company or the fiduciary if they don't actually protect this data?
In the case of a fraud.
Yes, in the case of a fraud.
Yeah.
So, and this is again that we have adapted from the European framework, that a penalty of 4% can be imposed on the company if they do not comply with the laws of the land. 4% of the global revenue of the company, or
the company generated.
Yes, that the company has generated. Okay. Or equivalent to European dollar 20 million.
20 million.
20 million European dollars. Okay. So, which is quite a large amount. It accounts for, I guess, 150 million in the Indian context.
Okay.
So, this is something again that we took from the European Union's part. Yet again, there is this thing called the Data Protection Authority, okay, which is called the DPA in India, and it has been established now, as this was not in the case of 2018's bill, when there was a chance that this can be, and if it is under the direct control of the state, that who will take care of the privacy. So an independent body called the DPA has been established, which will provide for protection of data.
Okay, so like, is DPA some sort of like an organization which includes certain posts, or the people will take care of the data privacy, kind of like a commissioner, a police commissioner on the certain levels? Is it like that? Is an organization pertaining to such?
Yes, it is more or less like this. And I mean, DPA will more or less regulate the grievances, and it will redress. It is. It also, combines the grievance redressal mechanism. It also combines the compliance mechanism, any kind of feedback mechanism. If every kind of aspect is to be talked about, then all this will be maintained by the DPA. Okay, so yes, of course, they will have people at the topmost level, and they will come down. And in the end, there is this thing called the consent managers. Now, this is something which is very unique to the Indian context. So,
and how is it unique to the Indian context? Like,
okay, so see, as I said, that consent is something which was also talked in the GDPR in case of the European Union. In India, this consent is not just put in place for granted. Okay, there are there is this post called consent managers, which is being put in place, and these people will take care of the compliance of all these measures, of these protection laws, and within the company. Okay, so they will keep a check, and they will, if the company is appropriately managing things in the way as prescribed by the law, and if there is consent provided by the user to use their data, so to what extent is that data being used for the processing, to what extent is the permission given by the user again, and if that permission by the user, if that consent is taken back, then this data needs also to be forgotten
or deleted.
Or deleted. So this brings me to another thing, which is right to be forgotten, as we talked about in case of the Puthuswamy case.
Yes, I remember
in the last podcast. So there are certain more things that India has evolved.
So as I was listening to you, I came to kind of a conclusion that a lot of India's policies, or the policies that are made in PDP, were kind of directly or indirectly influenced by Europe's framework for data protection. So, like, are there any areas in such, like the one you mentioned, that there is this, we are having data localization and right to be forgotten, which is not in it. So, are there any other areas in which privacy data protection bill differs from that of the other frameworks?
Yes. So, there is this thing wherein we categorize data. Okay, so while we have again categorized data as critical personal data, sensitive personal data, non-personal data, But then even personal data, in case of the GDPR, which is the European Union's policy for data protection, therein data is again bifurcated into several categories. Like age has its own category, biometric information has its own, sexual orientation, information related to the sexual interest and sexual life of a person, personal addresses, all these. So all these are categorized differently in the European framework, which is not in case of India. In India, compliance are made objectively for everything. Okay. So the same way as age needs to be protected, then the same way other things, their gender, their
Sexual orientation,
whatever the thing is, all this needs to be protected and be complied to with this within the same framework. There is no difference between these. Then there is a difference in age of majority. In case of Europe and the Western world at large, things are quite liberal. So they allow, these things to be acquired once a person attains the age of 16. In majority of the cases, yes, the least age which is mentioned there is the age of 13. In our case, this age is 18. So no data from people, from the Indian citizens could be collected if they have not attained the age of 18. Okay, so only once they have attained the age of 18, then when they are considered adults, can they be allowed to provide consent and their data can be taken then. So this age of majority is something that is quite different in both the context. And then there are few rights, as I mentioned. The right to get forgotten is something which is very unique to the Indian context because it originated in India by the Puthuswamy case, and so on, so forth.
So that was very insightful, and I get a lot about how data protection laws are being implemented in India. And but from let's say from the viewer's perspective, I would like to ask another question that what could be the steps or the measures or the procedures that a user, let's say an individual or someone from an organization, should take to keep their privacy or their data to be protected. Also, we have talked that government is indeed protecting, but what measures can someone take on an individual step to start data protection?
Okay, so see, of course, as you said, it is quite it is quite obvious that not everything can be done if the state takes responsibility for everything.
Yes.
Okay, so we as individuals, we need to have certain level of understanding about our privacy, because in the end it's my data, it's not theirs that they need to worry about. So first thing first, I need to be cautious. I mean, we all need to be cautious about the data, the information, my personal information that I'm providing to someone else. So it is for the same reason that we generally get warnings like don't share your OTP with someone, don't share your PIN with someone. So all sort of personal data, I should know that to whom am I providing this data for and for what purposes is my data being collected. So yes, not sharing my personal information, number one. Number two, using strong password.
That is, I think people usually take that lightly.
Yes. So because not always, say my name is Arjun, and if I keep it Arjun @123, anyone can guess it. So my passwords should be strong enough to protect them from getting cracked, right?
Yeah.
So, and then there should be a two-factor authentication. Yes, it takes a minute more than the usual, but yes, it will add on security and assurance to your data, your social media accounts, and furthermore. Then yes, there needs to be a regular update of the software, of the security version protocols that I'm using, right? Because see, the bugs that are out there, or any kind of mischievous entities that are out there, all these things are getting enhanced day by day. And so my firewall, I mean the layer that secures me, the layer that secures my data, should actually be improvised as per the needs again. But if I'm not doing this, I'm causing a threat to my own data that I need to take care of. right? So regularly updating software and security updates is something which is very, very, very essential for protecting my data. Then again, I mean, yes, there is a concept of consent, but then this consent in use is baseless if I don't read the policies that are put in place. So I must review the privacy policies. We all must review the privacy policy and the terms of service. Okay, it's not like check, check, check. It should be read, check, read, check. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is something that needs to be taken care of. Then yes, we have rights. As I said, we have the right to access, we have the right to rectification, we have the right to get forgotten, at least once the bill is passed. So all these rights need to be known by me, and I should exercise these rights is something which is very much important.
Especially the
So,
Indian context. A lot of the people don't do that.
Yes, because if I have got the rights, so they are meant for utilization, and their utilization is something that I mean, they should be exercised if it is required to be. And then, as you said, that there needs to be some compliance with the organizations as well.
Yeah.
So of course, it is not just my responsibility to take care of my data. I mean, of course, but it is not just mine. It should also be responsibility of the organization that I'm trusting
My data with.
to keep my data with, right? So they need to implement data protection policies, okay, which are put in place by the land. Now, of course, one thing that 4% global revenue penalty thing will keep a check on this, but yes, until then, the organizations should at least keep honesty within themselves to implement data protection policies and data privacy policies. And employees should also be trained, in fact, to keep a check if all sort of data policies and procedures for data protection are completely handled in a secured manner. So this is something, and this is why this concept of consent manager has been put in place. So consent managers, they should be trained particularly enough to secure this data and to be quite vocal about the rights of people within the institution, within the organization. Then there should be a regular conduct. Okay, there should be a regular conduct of the risk assessment, which should be taken to being, right? Because say if there is some other kind of risk that is being generated by any kind of threatening entities in the society or wherever, so this risk need to be assessed. I mean, you might have heard that university servers generally they get hacked by people sitting overseas somewhere else, right? So why do they do this? Because they need to collect data of the students or of the faculty and staff members, so that data of the citizens gets transferred to some other people. Because universities are the place where people of the most prestige, of the most best quality exist. Universities are a place where people like this exist, and getting their data gives them a hold for a variety of information that they could actually access. So now this risk needs to be assessed regularly is another thing, another important thing. Then similarly, there should be an implementation of access controls. Okay, so access controls are something which authorize only the intended person to get access to the data. Not everyone should be should get access to the data. I mean, if I provide my age to any kind of organization, so only the data, only the person who needs my age for processing should get access to my age, not anyone else. If there is a customer care executive, they don't need my age for rendering their services. Okay, so this thing needs to be kept in mind, that only the people who need the data for processing should get the access control. And then one of the most important measures that organizations need to take is what all third-party vendors, who all are third party that are exercising this data. This needs to be taken with caution, utmost caution. I mean, if there is some third party which is using my data for providing services or utilities to me, but then if that data is not secure with them, the organizations or the companies or the fiduciaries as they are called, they must refrain from giving access to these kind of vendors. Okay, so this is something that is again important. So once we keep all these regulations, all these important points with vitality in our minds, and it's not just in letter that all these should be followed, it should also be in the spirit that these are all put in place. Once this is done, I think our data will be secure.
Okay. So that was all for today, and I personally learned a lot about data protection, and I hope a lot of our viewers also did. So thank you, and thank you for your special and valuable time, sir. Also, thank you to all of the people that are joining into our podcast, and we'll be coming with another podcast next month, so please stay tuned.